Hello, come in. Hello, my name is Alex. Pleased to meet you. What's your name, please?
My name is Havisha.
Havisha. Please sit down, Havisha. Havisha, do you have any identification?
Yeah.
Can I see that? That's lovely. Thank you very much. And could I have your report form?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, Havisha, we're going to start with your presentation, and following this we will have a discussion about your presentation. Then we'll move on to the interactive phase, and this is followed by the listening task, and then we'll finish with the conversation. All right? The whole exam will take about 25 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, so what have you decided to talk about today?
Yeah.
Present.
Today I'm going to speak on euthanasia.
Okay. I will be making some notes, but this is just for my reference. It's not about language. All
And
right?
I have got something for you
Okay.
so that you can refer. This is the outline of my topic about what I'm going to speak.
Okay, so please begin.
Okay. What is euthanasia? Euthanasia in general terms means it is not yet defined very clearly because it depends on the personal view and it differs from person to person.
Mm-hmm.
Does it mean mercy killing, dignified death, pain terminating illness and causing a painless death? Okay. It is derived from the Greek word eu meaning good and thanatos meaning death, which combined means a well death or dying well. Okay, and here this is another paper which I've got for your clear reference. Euthanasia is deliberately bringing about the death of a patient. In some cases it is voluntary and in some cases it is involuntary. Deliberately bringing about death means if a patient is having a disease, is having a prolonged disease where his survival is at stake. I mean, it is not very clearly defined as to how long can he survive. Then we perform this. And then there are different types, which is active and passive. Active is, this involves not merely a refusal to be medicated, but a conscious and deliberate decision to end one's life. That is done by the patient himself. And passive is the patient rejects it, but the doctors perform it on him. That is done in the supervision of the family also. The family's advice is also taken into consideration. And then here are the actual conditions when euthanasia is performed. When the disease is non-curable and when the diseases like stroke, incurable pain and cardiopulmonary diseases. And then this person is in no state of performing any normal activities. Next we have experts worldwide have put this topic into discussion, and there are many pros and cons of these. First we discuss the cons. Many experts believe that it is a way to relieve pain and it's a way to reduce the medical bills, and it is also a way of relief when a person's life is very low or cannot be judged. And then the pros of it is it devalues, in a way people believe that it devalues human life, and in most cases it is used in a very negative manner. Like, killing the person voluntarily even though he doesn't want it, and sometimes for personal uses also. And then next we have how is this taken about in various countries, because this topic or this word is not familiar in many parts of the globe, but in wherever it is familiar or like it is legalized in various countries like Belgium and then Luxembourg, Netherlands, etc. In my own country, that's India, there are voluntary organizations who are helping about to bring awareness about this term. And then in Netherlands, law allows the life of a person to be taken upon his or her choice. And next we have, this is a very recent case of euthanasia which has been quite popular. This lady called Scavio, who is rendered a quadriplegic 15 years ago. And then she remains responsive to all the things and requires no life support. She only needs a tube to be fed upon during meals or during lunchtime or whenever she requires food. And now her lawyers are arguing for the euthanasia to be performed on her, whereas others are not ready to accept it. So there's going to be a bill that will be passed in the US Congress about her case. And then finally I would like to conclude by saying that euthanasia is not generalized. There's no standard of performing this. It is purely to be thought in a moral and human way about how a life should be ended or should it be prolonged. And finally, I would like to say that it's purely one's view of looking at the way the person is. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My first question is quite a simple one. Are you for it or are you against it? I mean, you gave a lot of information, but what's your personal belief?
Personally, I believe that euthanasia should be performed if the person, if the patient is in a very, what I can say, a very least possible way. I mean, if the person has prolonged illness, like he's on life support system for nearly a month or a year, and then his brain has stopped working, he has to be fed on the tubes. I don't think, personally I believe, I don't think the doctors need to treat him and he has to prolong his life.
But there are cases where people, for example, I can give you a real case where a girl was injured in a car accident and she was in a situation in a coma for about 5 years, and they thought she was going to die, and they considered euthanasia for her, and yet she came back, was conscious again and eventually recovered. So had they killed her, that would have been murder, surely.
Yeah, see, this case I'm telling you, I also have read about such cases, but they are 1 in 100. I'm telling you for sure they're only 1 in 100. I certainly believe that such cases should be dealt, after going through a lot of books and a lot of information regarding the case, but I don't think in such cases euthanasia should be performed. I want to tell that if suppose a 60-year man or a woman meets an accident and like he's the head of the family, so at that time many people go for I think that time people should go for euthanasia.
The problem I have with this is, with the increase in medical technology and advancements, it's now possible at the other side of life where children are born very prematurely, so maybe 20 weeks premature, they would die ordinarily, and yet we manage to keep them alive. And these young children, if they actually grow into adulthood, will be permanently disabled and so on. So why isn't euthanasia considered for premature babies?
But as far as my information is concerned, I don't think euthanasia is a term applied to particular age group. It depends, it is purely one's way of looking at it, and in most cases it is voluntary, in most cases it is involuntary, in utmost number of cases the doctors and the family come in coordination with one another, take lot of decisions, then discuss with the medical council and then perform this.
So in the ideal world, would you suggest that India should pass legislation that enabled voluntary euthanasia?
Yeah, I strongly believe, and I think it should come out with this.
But I still think this, even if this happened, it would then be open to abuse, and I think then there would be people who, they would say it's voluntary, but how is this proven? It may be something very difficult to prove, and I think the system would be abused.
No, see, I would like to give you some facts. In India, nearly 8 million people, approximately 8 million people suffer in poverty. And the rest, you can take around 10 to 12 million, they are not able to afford to the medical bills. So what I want to say is, even if the government passes this legislation, I believe it will be a hit, or it will be a success. Because most of them are unable to afford, and if such cases occur, like a girl, for example, as you have stated, a girl has been in coma for 5 years. As far as Indian attitude is concerned, if a girl is in coma for 5 years, I don't think the parents or whoever is his family can support the girl till 5 years. They might have performed euthanasia 1 year or 6 months.
But then this becomes an economical argument. It's about money, and therefore, if someone is in a rich position and they could sustain someone's life perhaps sufficiently that they might recover, whereas a poor family with no money, oh well, it's okay, then they can be killed.
Yeah.
Is that what your opinion is?
I'm sorry to state this, but that's the general attitude that goes on.
And you support that?
Yeah, sometimes it is true.
So life is money?
Life is, I don't state that life is money. What I want to say is, when you can't afford, and as such the person is really in a critical condition, he's in a coma, he needs some support. I don't think, families have so much time or, so much money to spare upon. When that person's life is no more, why do it on it?
Okay, now this is all very figurative and distant, but let's say, I mean, you know, obviously I hope it never does, but if this were to happen to you and someone you love very closely was severely or seriously ill, critically ill, do you think you would have the guts, the bravity to be able to say, yeah, I think it's time for them to die?
Yeah, surely.
You think you could?
Yeah, surely.
I am not sure.
Because see, instead of seeing him so painful, it's better you end his life. Why do you have to see him in so much pain?
Okay.
God has given you 2 eyes, so let him pass.
But if they're
peacefully.
unconscious in a coma, you don't know.
Yeah, that's what. Maybe the person is unconscious, but I am conscious and I can see him, what his pain is. I don't think I have so many guts to see his pain. You know, rather, I'll tell him, yeah, please.
So maybe the
go
easy
forward.
way out. Well, thank you very much for talking to me about euthanasia.